Am I the jerk for getting a coworker in trouble over a name? I, a 17-year-old female, grew up attending an overnight camp from the ages of 7 to 13. A few members of the staff stayed year after year, and I got to know them pretty well. One of the benefits of being on the staff at this particular camp is that it hires mainly non-Americans. I am one of 4 Americans on a 70-person staff. The only downside to this is that everyone I work with has a moderate accent, and I chose to use a name that can be hard to pronounce for non-native speakers. I have a first and middle name. My first name is very common and easier to pronounce, but I stopped using it when I was 12 and elected to go by my middle name. My middle name is more difficult to pronounce, and many of my coworkers struggle to say it. I told people they could refer to me by just the first letter, but I have made one exception. My friend Amy, a 28-year-old female, has worked at the camp for as long as I've been a camper. She was my counselor almost every summer, and now that I'm also part of the staff, we're really close. Since that first summer, she has called me by a nickname that is based on my first name. She's the only one who has ever been allowed to call me that and asked at the beginning of the summer if she could continue to use it. I said yes because I find it endearing. Another one of my coworkers, Ben, a 23-year-old male, has overheard Amy use the nickname and has asked if he could use it too. This is Ben's first summer at camp, so I don't know him very well and asked him to please not. Now he won't stop bugging me. He tells me that my name is beautiful, that I shouldn't be ashamed to use it. I'm not ashamed. I just don't like it. And that if Amy gets to use it, it's obviously not a big deal. I told him no over and over again. Ben was unhappy with this apparently, because yesterday I heard campers calling me by my first name. I wasn't sure if they were talking to me or not because I've never told them my first name. They were shouting it, and every time I asked them to stop, they would giggle and laugh. Kids do that kind of thing. I brought it up yesterday at a team meeting and asked Ben if he had told the kids my name. He said he must have let it slip. He added that since they won't stop using it, it must be okay for everyone to use it now. I told him and every other member of the staff in that room that if anyone tries to call me by my first name or encourages campers to call me by my first name, I simply wouldn't respond. The sentiment of the room was that the staff had my back, and I caught many people glaring at Ben during the rest of the meeting. After the meeting, I saw our boss pull him into the office, and when he came out, he told me that if I really had a problem with it, I could have just said no or told him to stop. He said I didn't have to bring it up in front of the entire staff. A few other coworkers had the same thoughts. I feel like I tried to say no and stop, but wasn't listened to. Am I the asshole? You haven't done anything wrong. He knew exactly what he was doing and ignored your repeated requests to stop. Instead of respecting your boundaries, he chose to keep using the name and even encouraged others to do the same. Now he's upset because you called him out in front of the team, but that's on him for not listening. Violate someone's boundaries. Get the consequences. Am I the jerk for making a big deal about leaving my in-laws' family reunion? I am a 27-year-old male, married to my wife Emma, a 25-year-old female. 3 weeks ago, her family decided to have a family reunion. While we were there, Emma's sister-in-law Cam, who is married to the youngest of her brothers, confessed to me that my in-laws had gone behind my back and made contact with the half-siblings I had never met, informing them about my existence. Cam said she was sorry to break the news to me there, but was worried they had more plans that could unfold at the family reunion. She also admitted that the attempt by her husband and the rest of my in-laws had gone so far south and so wrong that they mostly just ignored it. I was extremely angry. Emma was furious when I informed her. She kept apologizing to me about her family's actions. She never expected this from her family and felt awful that I had opened up to them, only for them to betray us like that. It's already a sensitive subject. I was, and still am, an affair baby. Both my parents were married when my mother became pregnant with me. My mother's life collapsed around her as a result. My father managed to prevent most of his family from finding out, but his wife discovered the truth. My mother died when I was 2, and I was placed in foster care. My biological father was contacted about taking me in. Years later, I learned that he and his wife stayed together and never told their children I existed. My maternal grandparents and siblings didn't want me because they viewed me as a sin. My mother's other children didn't want me either because I was an affair baby, and she had no friends to take me in. I grew up in foster care and was often reminded by social workers how unwanted I was and my status as an affair baby. When I turned 18 and left foster care, I reached out to my biological father. His wife told me I was a stain on their family and to go away because I would ruin her family with my presence. My in-laws knew about this. I shared my story with them while Emma and I were engaged. At the time it felt liberating, but they went behind my back and did this. I had told them I had no plans to ever make contact. They did it anyway, and once my half-siblings believed them, they made their feelings very clear, expressing a great deal of hatred. I saw direct messages thanks to Cam, but those came later. Emma confronted her parents and siblings, who were dismissive of their actions and blamed Cam for telling me. I told them she had more decency than they did and asked if they realized what they had done. They said I should appreciate their kindness. It was too much for me, so I told them I was done and needed to leave because I couldn't be around them anymore. I was extremely angry and might have been louder than I should have been with others around. Emma told them not to call us and followed me out. They called, complained, and said I shouldn't have made such a big deal about leaving the reunion, accusing me of showing us all up. Am I the asshole? You are not the one to blame. Your in-laws had absolutely no right to dig around in your business behind your back and breach your trust. This situation with your half-siblings is something very personal and delicate, and it's entirely your call whether or not you want to make contact. It's commendable how your wife stood by you every minute, even against her own parents. That's how it should be. Am I the jerk because I went to Disney World without my friends despite making plans? I, a 27-year-old female, have been wanting to go to Disney World for years. I have only gone once in my whole life, and that was while I was in middle school. Now that I am an adult, I want to go back and do all of the things that I want to do. I shared these plans with two friends who we will call M and KM. A 32-year-old female is an avid Disney goer who goes about 3 times a year minimum. K, a 36-year-old female, has never been and does not care either way. 4 years ago, the 3 of us agreed to plan a Disney girls trip together. Initially, M enthusiastically offered advice based on her deep knowledge of Disney parks. However, finalizing the year became a sticking point, primarily due to M's prior family plans for each suggested year, which involved her going to Disney. Whenever I joked about going alone, M insisted I should wait so we could all enjoy the trip together and eventually settled on early 2025. Recently, Kay announced her pregnancy, which altered our plans as her due date coincides with the planned trip, necessitating a reschedule. But I was so happy to be planning a baby shower for her that I was only a little bummed. When my boyfriend, a 27-year-old male, found out about it, the first thing he asked was, "What about your girl's trip?" I told him it was canceled and did not talk about it anymore. Little did I know, this angered him, and he took matters into his own hands. Behind my back, he planned a 1-week Disney trip including Universal Studios. For my birthday, he surprised me with a Tower of Terror Loungefly bag. Inside the bag was the confirmation code for Disney World, plane tickets, and a note that said he would buy the Universal tickets when the rest of the worlds opened. I was so excited when I told K, and MK was really excited for me, asking a bunch of questions about what we were going to do and wanted to see the bag he bought me. M, however, was visibly irritated. She then asked what happened to our girls' trip. I said that we have been talking about a trip for years, and we could always go after K is more comfortable. M thought it was unreasonable that I was going without them, but K pointed out that M goes to Disney 3 times a year, so what does it matter that I am going with my boyfriend? M argued that she has to go because her family lives in Florida and that is what they do. Eventually, we just stopped talking about it and went our separate ways. When I talked with my family about it later, my sister said that I am the antagonistic person because we have been talking about this girl's trip for years, and essentially I am canceling it altogether to go with my boyfriend. She also pointed out that I knew M would be upset if I went by myself because she told me whenever I joked about it. I might be the antagonistic person about that. K and my boyfriend are saying that I am not the antagonistic person and M has been holding out for years and that I should have gone sooner since this was originally my idea. Am I the antagonistic person? You are not responsible for this. M has been delaying the trip for seemingly no reason, and now she's upset that you're going without her. Since she goes so often, there will be more chances for you to go together. Also, you offered a trip after Kay recovers from her pregnancy, which seems like a great compromise. Am I the jerk for telling the family therapist that my father and stepmother refused to do the homework assigned and didn't follow her advice? I am a 16-year-old male in therapy with my father and stepmother. We have been in therapy for 3 or 4 months now. We started going because my stepmother wants a different relationship with me than I want with her. Her feelings were getting hurt, and I was getting frustrated with feeling like what I wanted didn't matter and that her wants were the priority. My stepmother has been in my life since I was 9, and I have known her since I was 9. I didn't have time to get to know her well because she moved states to live with us shortly after we met. I lost my mother when I was 5. My stepmother wanted us to have a mother-son dynamic. I saw her as family but not as a mother or even an actual parent. I do respect her. I think she's nice. I think she's funny, and we would be friends easier if I had been older. But I don't want another mother. Her giving birth to my half-siblings didn't change that for me, but having them made her more eager for more. She calls me her son all the time. I have voiced before that I wish she'd say stepson. I was ignored, and it was never addressed. When we started therapy, I mentioned that was something I disliked. She talked about how she disliked me calling her by her name. She wanted something more formal between us, like mama or something. My father said he wanted me to embrace having a second mother. He wanted me to let my stepmother be my second mother. I was honest that I feel like my voice doesn't matter when they ignore me asking her to call me her stepson. I explained why I want that and why I feel as I do. They tried to dismiss it, but the therapist told them to stop. She told them that me feeling like it lessens my mother is valid. Many children and adults feel that way. While that could change if I wanted it to, if not, it was something they would need to accept. 2 weeks ago, the therapist gave us homework. She wanted us to sit down and discuss outside of therapy the whole son-mama thing and come back to her with notes from it. She also wanted my stepmother to call me her stepson for a week. They didn't do any of that. I told the therapist during our session last week, I said they refused to sit with me, true, and she never once called me her stepson. I was asked to sit out for the rest of the session, and she had it just them and her that day. They are so angry at me. They told me I had done that to spite them, and it's not fair that my stepmother has to do the work but not me, and that she's right while I'm wrong. Am I the asshole? Therapy is hard and painful, but it only works if everyone is honest and does the work. It sounds like they've been hoping the therapist will just blindly agree with them rather than putting their own egos aside. They're just embarrassed they got caught being uncooperative, but that's their own fault. Share this with the therapist, OP. You did the right thing. Am I the jerk for calling my stepdad a hypocrite after asking my grandpa to walk me down the aisle at my wedding? My stepfather, whom I, a 24-year-old female, called dad most of my life, is the only dad I ever knew. He met my mom when I was only 1 year old, and they got married right after my 2nd birthday. I have no memories of my life without him. Most of my life, I saw him as my dad and not my stepfather. He was the male figure who raised me and was always there. However, I was never equal to his biological children. He would call me his stepdaughter when asked how many children he had. I heard him say it even when I was little. I always called him dad, or referred to him and my mom as my parents. It hurt a lot when I was younger. My younger sister was often called my first baby girl by him. My younger brother was called his firstborn. While technically they are his first biological son and daughter, I was always expected to treat him like my real dad. However, he was not always claiming me as his real daughter. Things started to change for me when I was 16 years old. One of my friends called him my stepdad, and I did not correct him. My stepdad overheard and told me he was hurt that, after all he had done for me, I had let him be relegated to the lesser title of stepdad. I told him I was his stepdaughter most of the time, so why shouldn't he be my stepdad? My stepdad was still good to me. However, some things really hurt when I was younger, and some things made me angry when I was older, like the incident above. I talked to him and my mom about it, and I was gaslighted into believing he didn't say stepdaughter. He would sometimes say that it was important to distinguish, but none of these were during doctor appointment incidents. I always felt like it would have been easier if he had been consistent with not my kid for me. At least then, I wouldn't have been so confused and hurt as a younger child. My grandparents noticed. I think what they noticed most was when I was 8 years old, and I was worried I couldn't be his real daughter. I asked my stepdad to adopt me, and he changed the subject. My stepdad's parents and 2 siblings were also there, and they looked shocked that I'd asked. I was never called a granddaughter by his parents or a niece by his siblings, but they were grandma and grandpa and auntie and uncle to me. Grandpa really stepped up for emotional support. When COVID restrictions happened, my fiancé and I moved in with him temporarily since he was alone and knew we wanted to be in a home and not a cramped apartment. When I got engaged, I asked Grandpa to walk me down the aisle. My stepdad was offended again and told me as much. I brought up how he talked about watching his 2 little girls get married, my 2 sisters, and never his 3. So why would he be taking on such a big task for his not little girl? He told me I was being nitpicky, and I told him he was a hypocrite to treat me as not a daughter but expect to be treated as a dad. He told me I didn't know the meaning of the word, and that I should be more appreciative of all the things he gave me. Am I the asshole? You did nothing to be ashamed of. You made the right choice to ask your grandpa to walk you down the aisle. Your stepdad and your mom sound ridiculous for not understanding how his comments and behavior growing up affected you. He set the tone, and he doesn't get to change the tune to enjoy the spoils of being dad when it suits him. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding, and I hope you and your grandpa have a wonderful walk down the aisle. Am I the jerk for defending my siblings' right to keep their baby's name secret until after the birth? My little sister is pregnant with her first baby in our family. All parents, other siblings, aunts, and uncles are going crazy wondering what name she's going to give her little one. My sister has been asked, and she has made it clear the name is not going to be known by anyone but her and her husband until after their baby is here. We all know she's having a girl, and our family has very strong ideas about names. I think one of the reasons she's so quiet about her choice is because our family tried to get me to change the names of my 3 children. They were rude about my children's names: Piper, Rowan, and Sky. My family prefers classic or royal family names. My children do not have those kinds of names. The fact my husband and I announced the names before the birth really went badly for us. We were both sick of it each time. But we'd forget ourselves with the excitement of each pregnancy and announce the names because we love them. Of course, my family never put anything negative online because the reaction there was very positive. I have an idea of what my future niece's name will be. Well, I have 2 actually, and neither name is something my family would approve of. It makes me so proud that my sister learned from me and decided to keep quiet on the name. Our family keeps talking about it, and they're also trying to make her give in. They say she must have some horrible name picked out and doesn't want to be told they need to change it. Or they believe she has chosen the name of someone they dislike. I think the former is the more popular thought amongst the family. I have defended my sister each and every time the rest of the family starts this. I told them she and her husband have every right to wait to announce the names, that most people wait, and it makes sense given my family's, reaction previously. This became a fight with my parents, who told me they have every right to know beforehand. I said they do not. Only the parents of the child have that right, and not all babies get named beforehand anyway. They told me it wasn't my business anyway, and I responded that it's also none of theirs. They are the ones trying to go against my sisters and brother-in-law's wishes. I told them my sister has the right idea, and they need to accept it and stop before they push her away or have limited information about their new granddaughter. They told me I was being crazy and acting like they were doing something wrong, which they are not, in their mind. They told me I better not have been a bad influence on her with names. I rolled my eyes. They got so mad at me that they told me I owed the family an apology for how I have been treating them. Am I the asshole? Your sister and brother-in-law are absolutely within their rights to keep the name a secret, especially after what your parents put you through. It's great that they learned from your experience. Grandparents injecting themselves into picking the name without being asked is extremely insensitive and intrusive. Let them throw a tantrum if they want. They will achieve nothing, and you won't have to get a headache. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.